So my partner Steve and I officially met 15 years ago, but our journey actually began a lot earlier than that. I'll get to that. Essentially, I was invited to a mutual friend's house party where he was screening the British version of Queer as Folk. And so I met Steve there that night, and we didn't really get much of a chance to socialize because, we were all watching the series. But it was after the series was done and we were helping to clean up the place. Steve was doing dishes and I was washing the dishes, and we just began talking and just having normal conversations, getting to know one another. And all along I had this feeling that I knew him from somewhere, but I just couldn't place where it was. I was thinking, well, had I seen him before out clubbing, or had I seen him at a bathhouse, or something like that. But no, it was definitely neither one of those cases, because he wasn't the type that'll actually go out very much. In any event, we struck up a friendship, began hanging out a lot during that summer, because we both loved playing tennis, so we used to do that a lot, and just generally got to know each other over the summer. And for some reason, one day I decided to go and take a look at my old kindergarten school picture. Those yearly pictures that you take every year where the whole class is sitting on benches. And sure enough, I looked at the picture and I saw Steve, like 2 or 3 little kids away from me, sitting on the floor. I was 99% sure that it was him, but I had to confirm it. So I emailed him and asked him, well, what elementary school did you go to? I mean, he also grew up in Vancouver. And he confirmed it and said Laura Secord. So I was, amazed and pretty shocked, actually. And, it was funny because he still had basically the same baby face as that little 5-year-old kid in kindergarten. So I didn't immediately tell him right away. I kept it as a surprise, secret, and eventually told him, at a later time. And so, we were both obviously very surprised by it, and neither one of us remembered, because I was only at that school for like about 2 years. I was there in kindergarten and grade 1, and then I moved away after that. But anyway, as we got to know each other that summer, we also found out that we had actually crossed paths several times in between kindergarten and that fateful party at our friend Rob's house. We found out that we actually both went to UBC at the same time, and we were both in the Faculty of Commerce, but we never met there. UBC is such a huge campus, and even within the faculty, the lecture halls were huge, and we may have even been in the same classes, but we just never ended up meeting. And then we also found out that we both worked at, somebody's coming on. Oh, he's not actually showing up here. Okay, the tail is going to go by. All right, Hilo. We were both working at Granville Island during the same time in the 80s. The public market there. I worked at a fish store called Seafood City, and There he is back there. And he worked for Lee's Donuts. And so looking back on it, I vaguely remember I must have gone over on during my breaks and bought donuts from him. He never would have come to buy seafood from my store because he actually doesn't like seafood. So, you know, we didn't meet there either, not technically anyway. So, yeah, so it's pretty amazing in a way that we went to kindergarten and then all these years pass and we end up becoming friends, and then from the friendship developed into a relationship, which was a whole nother story. I was actually really happy to just be friends, and I knew for myself as we got to know each other that I kind of started developing more than just friendship feelings towards him, but I didn't want to risk the friendship, so you know, I kept those feelings to myself, and he actually began to feel the same way, and you know, thankfully it was him that actually brought up the subject one day. We were talking on the phone, and he told me he had something to tell me, and you know, he just blurted out that he was starting to fall for me, and you know, I was completely shocked, but obviously happy at the same time. And so I told him, well, wow, you know, I actually feel the same way, and you know, then began our romance. You know, I really wasn't going to do anything about it because prior to him, all of my exes have been Caucasian. I've never dated an Asian before, and it was the same thing with him. All his exes were Caucasian, and I'm the very first Asian that he's ever dated. And you know, I just had no idea that he was even interested or thought of me in those terms. You know, I had no reason to think that. But in any event, I am so thankful and grateful, and you know, for him to actually take the chance and have the balls to actually express himself and tell me how I feel or felt, because I never would have taken that step myself. I just, yeah, it was just something that I never would have imagined doing, and I would have just been happy with the friendship that we had. And I'm glad, obviously I'm glad that he took the initiative and you know, told me how he felt. And basically the rest is history, I guess. So that's kind of the story of how Steve and I met, and as I said, this would be a story for the grandkids. Yeah, anyway, that's our story.